The East Riding of Yorkshire Yeomanry was a unit of the British Army from 1794 to 1956. The regiment was formed as volunteer cavalry in 1794 during the French Revolutionary Wars. It was converted to an armoured role in 1920. In 1956 it merged with two other Yorkshire Yeomanry regiments to form the Queen's Own Yorkshire Yeomanry. Its lineage is continued today by the Queen's Own Yeomanry. History. Earlier incarnations: Imperial Yeomanry. The formation of a regiment of Imperial Yeomanry, known as the East Riding of Yorkshire Imperial Yeomanry, was approved on 15 April 1902. World War I. In accordance with the Territorial and Reserve Forces Act 1907, which brought the Territorial Force into being, the TF was intended to be a home defense force for service during wartime, and members could not be compelled to serve outside the country. However, on the outbreak of war on 4 August 1914, many members volunteered for Imperial service. Therefore, TF units were split in August and September 1914 into first-line and second-line units. Later, a third line was formed to act as a reserve, providing trained replacements for the first and second-line regiments. 1/1 of a Stone. East Riding of Yorkshire Yeomanry. The 1/1 of a Stone moved north in November 1914 as divisional cavalry from the 2nd Northumbrian Division. On 20 May, the regiment formed part of a parade of some 40,000 men before H.M. the King and Lord Kitchener. The regiment was then ordered south to Filey and then to East Anglia, to form part of the 1/1 of a Stone North Midland Mounted Brigade. In October 1915, they set sail for Alexandria. In 1916, the regiment was part of the Western Frontier Force, a dreary job, causing a number of NCOs and men to join the newly formed Imperial Camel Corps and 120 officers and men to be detached for service under T.E. Lawrence. In December 1916, the 22nd Mounted Brigade moved to the Suez Canal zone to form part of the Anzac Mounted Division. The regiment first saw action during the First Battle of Gaza, a hard engagement for both the men and the horses, and in the Second Battle of Gaza it was posted to the far right flank. In General Allenby's reorganization, 22nd Mounted Brigade transferred to the Yeomanry Mounted Division. In October 1917, the regiment took part in the Third Battle of Gaza, and on 13 November at El Moga, supported a charge by 6th Mounted Brigade, A Squadron, commanded by Marge J.F.M. Robinson M.C., led 22nd Mounted Brigade. Having captured their objective, they pressed on to Akia and established a position on the far side of the village square. However, they had to withdraw as they were unsupported by the rest of the brigade. Sadly, it transpired that the village was the location of a Turkish Corps headquarters, and had the success of the attack been exploited, then a major dislocation of the enemy lines could have resulted. El Moga was the last great cavalry charge of the British Army. In December 1917, with the exception of the machine gun section, the regiment was dismantled and sent to France. Together with the Lincolnshire Yeomanry, it formed 102bn Machine Gun Corps. The battalion saw action several times in the closing months of the war in the area around Cambrai, supporting attacks by the 49th Division, 51st Division and 56th Infantry Divisions. 2/1 of a Stone. East Riding of Yorkshire Yeomanry. The second line regiment was formed in 1914. In 1915 it was under the command of the 2/1 of a Stone Yorkshire Mounted Brigade in Yorkshire, and by March 1916, was in the Beverley area. On the 31st of March 1916, the remaining mounted brigades were numbered in a single sequence and the brigade became 18th Mounted Brigade, still in Yorkshire under Northern Command. In July 1916 there was a major reorganization of second-line yeomanry units in the United Kingdom. All but 12 regiments were converted to cyclists, and as a consequence the regiment was dismantled and the brigade converted to 11th Cyclist Brigade. Further reorganization in October and November 1916 saw the brigade redesignated as 7th Cyclist Brigade in November, now in the Bridlington area. About May 1918 the brigade moved to Ireland and the regiment was stationed at Bandon and Fermoy, County Cork. There were no further changes before the end of the war. 3/1 of a Stoned East Riding of Yorkshire Yeomanry. The 3rd Line Regiment was formed in 1915 and in the summer it was affiliated to the 5th Reserve Cavalry Regiment at York. Early in 1917 it was absorbed in the 1st Reserve Cavalry Regiment at the Curragh. Between the wars, on 7 February 1920, the regiment was reconstituted in the Territorial Army with HQ at Hull. Following the experience of the war, it was decided that only the 14 most senior yeomanry regiments would be retained as horse cavalry, with the rest being transferred to other roles. As a result, on 23 August 1920, the regiment was one of 8 converted and reduced to 26th Armoured Car Company, Tank Corps. In October 1923 it was renumbered as 26th Armoured Car Company, Royal Tank Corps, and on 23 August 1939 it was transferred to the Royal Armoured Corps. The company was initially equipped with Peerless armoured cars, later to be followed by a mixture of Crossleys and Rolls-Royces. By 1939 it became clear that a new European war was likely to break out, and a doubling of the Territorial Army was authorized, with each unit forming a duplicate. The 1st East Riding Yeomanry was reconstituted as a divisional cavalry regiment equipped with 28 light tanks, 44 carriers and 41 motorcycles. At the same time, it formed its duplicate 2nd East Riding Yeomanry. World War II 1st East Riding Yeomanry. In March 1940, after training at Tidworth, the 1st Regiment joined the BEF in France as part of 1st Armoured Reconnaissance Brigade, initially the Corps Cavalry to 3rd Corps. However, in May the regiment passed under the command of 48th Division, 44th Division, McForce, and finally back to 48th Division. The regiment was first involved in fighting near Ath, south of Brussels, and then over the next fortnight fought 7 rearguard actions before being finally surrounded at Cassel on the night of 29-30 May in the company of 145th Infantry Brigade. As rearguard to the brigades break out, the F echelon was fatally exposed. The remnants of 1 ERY returned to Tidworth, where the regiment was brought up to strength by drafts from the 2nd Regiment, before moving on to Bovington to rejoin 1st Armoured Reconnaissance Brigade. They next deployed to Essex for anti-invasion duties, where it was equipped with bevets. When new material became available in spring 1942, the regiment re-equipped with Covenanter tanks and Honeys, and formed 27th Armoured Brigade, together with the 4th, 7th Royal Dragoon Guards and the 13th, 18th Royal Hussars. In April 1943, the regiment again re-equipped, this time with Sherman duplex-drive tanks. The training all came to fruition on 6 June 1944, when the regiment landed on D-Day supporting 9th Infantry Brigade in 3rd British Infantry Division, and for the following 50 days they took part in the bridgehead battles. During this period they also supported 59th Infantry Division. Because of casualties, 27th Armoured Brigade was broken up on 29 July, and on 16 August the regiment joined 33rd Armoured Brigade, taking over the Petrel Mk1 and AMP-2 Shermans of 148 Rectar AC. The regiment was now attached to 51st Infantry Division, for the final Fallies pocket battle. battles, the advance to the River Seine, its crossing and the taking of St. Valery and Corks, after which the regiment transferred to 49th Infantry Division for the Battle of Le Havre. In October, the regiment supported 53rd Infantry Division in the Netherlands, fighting around Hertogenbosch and the later crossing of the Maas. However, during the Battle of the Bulge in the winter of 1944, it was hurried away to reinforce the pressure being put on the German Bulge, and then in January returned to 79th Armoured Division and re-equipped with Buffalo to carry the troops of 15th Infantry Division on the assault crossing of the Rhine the 15th of March. For the last weeks of the war, the regiment reconverted to Shermans, coming under the command of the 1st Canadian Army clearing the Netherlands. After the war, the regiment was stationed at Labo until being placed in suspended animation on the 7th of March 1946. Brigadier Carver considered the East Riding Yeomanry to be one of the best, if not the best, armoured regiment that he had come across. 2nd East Riding Yeomanry. The secondary was formed as a Royal Armoured Corps regiment as a duplicate of the 1st Regiment on the 24th of August 1939. On the 25th of June 1940 it was converted to infantry as 10th Battalion, Green Howards. From the start of 1943, they started training as parachutists, and on the 1st of June the battalion became 12th Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, and joined the 5th Parachute Brigade, which itself was attached to the 6th Airborne Division. Post-war, in 1956 the East Riding Yeomanry was merged with two other yeomanry regiments as the Queen's Own Yorkshire Yeomanry, which was formed on 1 April 1967 as a TAVR3 unit with the RHQ and A Squadron at York, B Squadron at Doncaster and C Squadron at Hull. Then on 1 April 1969, they were reduced to cadre and finally reformed on 1 April 1971 as A Squadron, the Queen's Own Yeomanry. Bibliography. Bellis, Malcolm A. Regiments of the British Army 1939 to 1945. London, Military Press International. ISBN 0854209999. James Brigadier. British Regiments 1914 to 18. London, Samson Books Limited. ISBN 0906304032. Milam, Patrick. The Yeomanry Regiments, 200 Years of Tradition. Edinburgh, Canongate Academic. ISBN 1898410364. Rinaldi, Richard A. Order of Battle of the British Army 1914. Ravi Rikai. ISBN 9780977607280.